What wrong, Grug?
Grug upset. Grug lose to Sky Striker tribe. Grug need better deck, but Grug lack critical thinking skills.
Oh, banlist change. Me have deck for you.
Oh.
Hey everybody, Joseph Rothschild here, aka MBT, back again with another episode of 10-Minute Testing. At this point, I'm pretty sure Konami has it out for me specifically. There's so much stuff you could unhit in Dino, and they picked the card with the hardest name to say at 400 words per minute. Ah well. The unbanning of Miscellaneousaurus has drastically improved the quality of life for every peasant who bought 3 Dino Smashers Fury in 2017. Having said that, Dino has been extinct for a while, so let's see how our prehistoric pals compare to today's quality of deck. Presenting Dinosaur. So here's the list, and god, that's a lot of monsters. As always, I'll give you a background about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and of course, the card by card. So firstly, for those of you that don't know, Dinosaur is a deck that sounds like it'd be easy to play. It's got Chonkers, it's got Stratoses, and it's got about a million ways to find both of them, but it's actually a skill-intensive combo deck that rewards simplified game states and adaptable lines of gameplay. Its flagship monster, Soul-Eating Oviraptor, is either a Stratos or a Foolish Burial, both of which you may recognize as good cards. It turns out if there's a high enough concentration of these good cards alongside an exceptionally strong end goal, something like, I don't know, Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, then you've got a meta deck on your hands. Unfortunately, while its ability to beat multiple hand traps and massive ability to push through OTKs looks enticing, it tends to fold to 2 very specific things: individual monster removal or targeted effect negation. Destroying UCT or negating Oviraptor is exceptionally hard to come back from, and with only 1 copy of Miscellaneousaurus, it's unlikely you'll have their on-theme answer. Until now! Like in Jurassic Park, the once-deceased Miscellaneousaurus has been reanimated and restored to 3 copies, and just like in the film, I'm sure it will turn out great. This card, paired with Lost World, helps the deck both to extend past the point of normal summon Oviraptor pass, and to protect its critical combo pieces from those wily Widow Anchors that otherwise spell extinction. This deck has evolved in other ways as well. The inclusion of a small Dino Wrestler engine gives access to format staple Pankratops, who not only performs as admirably as he does in other decks designed to break boards, but also triggers Lost World before you use your normal summon on the must-resolve Oviraptor. Hopefully, the added resilience to disruption and availability of unique tools will usher in a new period of Dino dominance. So with that, let's get into the card by card. Firstly, we've got the Dino Daddies, 2 UCT and 2 Overtex. That's followed by a Dino Wrestlin' package of 3 Pankratops and 1 Jimmy. After that is 3 Miscellaneousaurus, 3 Oviraptor, 1 Dagoran, and 1 Giant Rex. For babies, we're on 2 Babycerosaurus and 1 Petit Pteranodon, followed by an Eolo. We need a reasonable density of non-dinosaurs as well, so we're on 3 Ash Blossom and 3 Effect Veiler. For spells, we're on 3 Foolish Burial Goods to send World Dino Wrastlin', 2 Pill, 3 Fossil Dig, 2 Terraforming, 3 Lost World, and 1 of the Wrastlin' field itself. In the extra deck, we've got Trishula, Naturia Beast, who we can make with Reproducus, and Chanbara, followed by Logia, Dolka, and Exciton Knight. After that, we've got 2 Borals, Nightmares, Unicorn, Phoenix, and Cerberus, Pensatag, Mermaid for when we really need a non-dino in the graveyard, Underclock, and Repro. So with that, let's jump into the games. Our first match is up against longtime boogeyman of the channel and one of my least favorite decks to ever darken the door of Percy Ladder, Dark Magician. I bet if we click on the deck, we'll just... There's the Eye of Timaeus. We're going second, as we endeavor to every game, and though this game is short, it does a good job of showcasing just how important it is to have both access to Miscellaneousaurus and to operate on an axis outside of the metagame. Our opponent's going to lead with a copy of Magician's Rod. We have the Effect Veiler, but unfortunately for us, they have the Illusion Magic. That will add a copy of what else? Magician's Navigation to the hand. Afterwards, I'll activate Dark Magical Circle, go into Apprentice Illusion to get the Dark Magician to hand, set a card, and pass it back. For turn, we draw Dagoran. We're going to lead with a Fossil Dig for a Miscellaneousaurus, then normal summon a copy of Soul-Eating Oviraptor. We're going to send an Overtext, then activate the effect of Ultra Evolution. Our opponent is going to Magician's Navigation for a Dark Magician and a Magician's Rod, and expect to banish a card we control, but when they go to do so, we will of course activate Miscellaneousaurus. After this chain is done resolving, our opponent will concede. Well, not a particularly interesting game one, but then again, Dark Magician isn't a particularly interesting deck. If you disagree, let me know in the comments section below. I promise I'll get to them. Our second match is up against Orcust, and our opponent is playing the Trickstar build of the deck. I love this build, and not only because it includes Trickstar, it's because sometimes you draw hands like this that are extremely bricky, but contain a copy of Terraforming, and you're able to perform the full combo. They're going to lead with said copy of Terraforming, getting a copy of Trickstar Light Stage to hand. That's of course going to turn into a Candina, and then afterwards a copy of Lilybell. Lilybell will special summon itself before going into Nightmare Phoenix and Mermaid. Mermaid will trigger, getting an Orcust Nightmare from deck, and going into a Galatea. Orcust Nightmare will send a copy of Harp Horror, who will special summon a copy of Symbol Skeleton before using the effect of Galatea to tag out the field spell for a Babel. Next, they'll go into the house of the deck, Rusty Bardiche, setting a copy of Fogblade and activating Silent Boots for a second one. They'll go back into Galatea and set 3. My god, that's frightening. Well, we draw Fossil Dig, which is excellent. It allows us to get a dinosaur to hand. Afterwards, we're going to activate the effect of Oviraptor. We'll activate Miscellaneousaurus in response to the Fogblade, but they have the climax. That means, of course, its effect is going to be negated, but we still have plays. We'll first go into a Pankratops, then use the Grave effect of Miscellaneousaurus to get a copy of Aolo to our side of the board. We'll go into a copy of Chanbara, and then special summon a copy of Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. They will Valor it, and we'll get to attack. They'll activate the effect of Fogblade, but of course they can't target the Ultimate Conductor Tyranno because its effects are already negated. We get in for a fair amount of damage, but Orcust is never really out of the game. They're going to start with the climax to add a copy of Harp Horror to hand, then go to main phase 2 and pass it back. We draw for turn. What do we find but an Ultra Evolution Pill? We'll activate Use TC on a Petit Pteranodon to get a copy of Soul Eating Oviraptor. Our opponent is going to draw and lock us, but this should be the end of the game. We'll tag out with Oviraptor to get a copy of Miscellaneousaurus, go into an Underclock Taker, go into a Dolka to negate any lingering effects during the battle phase with Babel. They'll attempt to do just that to get a copy of Phantom Knights of Rusty Bardiche, but despite the fact that it's got a Fogblade on it, we can still destroy it with this copy of Pankratops, and when they activate the effect of Harp Horror, we can negate it with Dolka. That should be enough for lethal. So it's time for game 3, and you know what that means, a best of 3 versus meta. Our opponent is playing Sky Striker, and as I alluded to in the introduction, this is a matchup that gives Dinosaur a fair amount of trouble. Activating Widow Anchor, which you can see our opponent has drawn, of course, on Soul Eating Oviraptor makes it exceptionally difficult to win. However, we have drawn one of the very few pieces of interaction for this, a copy of Lost World, alongside an Effect Veiler which should negate the effect of our opponent's single Kagari. It's very possible we pull this off. They're going to lead with a copy of Engage to get a copy of Area 0 to hand. They'll activate Area 0 and target this copy of Ray they've just normal summoned, tagging out for a copy of Kagari, and then finding... wow, nothing. That never happens. We'll Effect Veiler the Kagari trying to get back the Engage, and I'm feeling pretty safe until I see the second copy of Engage. Okay, there's Multi-Roll, there's Shizuku, and then at end step there's the Shizuku Shuffle for a copy of Eagle Booster. For turn we draw a Foolish Burial Goods, which is great news. It means we'll be able to activate the effect of Lost World by activating the Grave effect of World Dino Wrestling and triggering it before we use our normal summon. Our opponent is going to chain Eagle Booster in response to the trigger so that we don't turn off all of their spells and traps. We'll activate the effect of Oviraptor, setting a Coddles, and then Fossil Dig our way to a Miscellaneousaurus. That's going to get an Aolo from deck and turn into a Pensatag. We'll activate Ultra Evolution, and this should be lethal until I see Metaverse. Now that Metaverse is going to be a spell mining cave. If I go down to 2 monsters by tagging out this copy of Dino Wrestler Pankratops, they can't activate Mining Cave, and we buy ourselves a turn. We still do a fair amount of damage with Piercing. They're going to Area 0 our token, and unfortunately they do find something. That means they'll be able to destroy it, normal summon a copy of Ray, go into Shizuku, eat our Pensatag, and then activate Widow Anchor on our copy of UCT. We take a lot of damage, and they go into Phoenix, wiping our board, but hear me out, we're actually still in the clear. We're going to lead with a copy of Terraforming for a copy of Lost World. We'll then activate the Grave effect of Miscellaneousaurus for 4. Our Oviraptor gets negated by the effect of Widow Anchor, but of course we have another monster in hand. So after we summon the token, we can normal summon a copy of Sistegio and go to battle phase, destroying a copy of Baby Sarosaurus in damage step for a Giant Rex and attacking over this copy of Phoenix. We'll go into Alagia and hope for the best. For turn, our opponent draws something exceptionally live. They'll Area 0, they find a copy of Ray. I figure, okay, the Ray's gotta represent the end of it. We'll activate the effect of Lagia, and there's Hornetbit. Okay, so there's Kana. After Kana is Hayate. Hayate gets in for 1,000 points of damage, sends a copy of Jamming Waves to Graveyard, and then turns into a Shizuku at end step. Effectively, we've got 1 turn to do this. Thankfully, we draw like a god. We'll activate Ultra Evolution for a copy of UCT, then we'll activate the banished effect of Giant Rex, send a copy of a token to our opponent's side of the board, and get moving. We'll attack into the token, triggering the effect of Lost World to destroy a copy of Baby Sarosaurus, activating the effect of Soul Eating Oviraptor, and getting in for 1,1700. Alright, so it's time for game 2, and oh god, we're going first. Okay, our opponent has figured out what we're doing, and as a result is forcing us to be on the play. That's terrible news for them if we have a way to make Naturia Beast. But awful news for us if we've drawn Jurac Aolo. Well, let's see what we can get done. We're going to lead with a copy of Fossil Dig to get a copy of Soul Eating Oviraptor to hand. We will activate its effect to send a copy of Codals, activate that effect to get a pill, and then activate Miscellaneousaurus for 2 for a Baby Cerosaurus. Miscellaneousaurus from hand so we can tag it out for said Baby Cerosaurus, triggering its effect to get a Cystegio and a Pancratops to hand. We'll end on a Logia and basically go up 1 card for a single spell negate. Unfortunately, 1 spell negate is not particularly good if that spell is Widow Anchor. They'll activate Foolish Burial Goods, followed by a Terraforming. After that, they'll activate Startup Engage, and from this position, the game is effectively over. They'll activate a second one, then activate Area 0 on the set card. They find a Hercules base, which is better than nothing, before popping this copy of Area 0 for a copy of Ray, going into a Kagari, adding back this copy of Startup Engage for the 3rd one this turn. They'll Shark Cannon away our copy of Miscellaneousaurus before destroying our Lagia and attacking over our Cystegio. At end step, they're going to activate the effect of Multi-Roll for 4 and Shizuku to add a card to hand. We draw for turn. We're going to lead with a copy of Foolish Burial Goods to special summon a copy of Pancratops. Our opponent is going to Eagle Booster in response. That sucks. We'll activate Pancratops' effect on this copy of Multi-Roll before activating Ultra Evolution Pill. Our opponent will Ash. We'll special another Pancratops and an Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, but because of Eagle Booster, we just, get to do some damage. We'll pass it back to our opponent. The writing's kind of on the wall for this one. They're going to lead with a copy of Area 0. They whiff, at least. Then they'll activate Foolish Burial Goods for a Metal Foes Fusion, go to Battle Phase, and take our copy of UTC. We'll activate Pancratops, but they have the Called by the Grave, so it'll get negated, and we'll take 3,500 plus 1,500 points of damage. In main phase 2, they'll go into a copy of Nightmare Phoenix after shuffling back with a copy of Metal Foes Fusion, set a card, and pass it back to us. We draw probably the worst card remaining in our deck and pass it back. All I need to see here is this copy of Ray, and I am so excited to leave. They finally hit a copy of Area 0, destroying their copy of Hercules Base and shuffling back the Kagari to add insult to injury. There's the Ray. Let's get out. Alright, so it's time for that all-important Game 3, and in a desperate attempt to find the Turn 1 Naturia Beast open, I have voluntarily elected to go first, and I am being so punished for it. Wow, can you spell hubris? God, this is like the not going to Wisconsin of in-game decision-making. Okay, so here's our first turn. Did you miss it? Our opponent's going to lead with a copy of Foolish Burial Goods, sending an Engage to Graveyard. They'll go into Ray, attacking directly for 1,500 points before going into a Hayate, sending a second copy of Engage, and then making Kagari. We do have the effect Veiler for the Kagari, but of course we can't negate the Shizuku, which is going to add a copy of Hercules Base and try again next turn. So for turn we draw... Wait, Lost World turns on the whole thing. Okay, so we'll special Pancra, there's the token. We'll attack into the token in order to get a copy of Soul Eating Oviraptor to our side of the board. We'll activate its effect to send an Earth to the graveyard. Afterwards, we'll normal summon a copy of Miscellaneousaurus, go into Reproducus, get our copy of Aolo, and... Oh. Yeah, okay. I guess I should have expected that the hand that basically just made a copy of Hayate and nothing else included a hand trap, but this is really a masterclass in how not to overextend. They're going to activate Multi-Roll on this copy of Hercules Base, which shuffles back this copy of Kagari, adding an Engage back to hand. They'll activate Engage and a second Engage before activating Area 0 and finding a copy of Widow Anchor. The writing's on the wall for this one. I don't think there's anything I can do to beat Multi-Roll for 3. We draw for turn. It is a Foolish Burial Goods, which is something. We'll activate it to get a copy of Pancratops to our side of the board, but even with a Dagoran on our opponent's side of the field and a Giant Rex and a UTC on ours, we're not going to be able to do it. So we're back with the deck. I think it performed admirably. I don't know if I would say the same for me. Let's do the pros and the cons. First, the pros. 1, it's chewy. The deck has one benefit over almost every other meta strategy. It only needs one UCT to win the game. Therefore, if it's 4 other cards eat removal, it's really not that big of a deal. It cleans up boards with staggering ease. 2, it excels at OTKs. I'm sure I missed some, but Pensatag and Underclock are massive boons to the strategy, and remove the previous counterplay of keeping monsters in defense. And 3, the 3 Miscellaneousaurus are miraculous at meddling with those pesky pieces of negation that would normally ruin our Rampage. And the cons. 1, playing with several hand traps in mind is hard, and this deck demands you do it. Unlike other strategies where you can kind of get away with presuming that they're not holding anything and going as far as you can, this deck requires that you almost never play for the best case scenario. 2, it's not good at keeping up an advantage. This didn't used to be that big of a deal, but the rise of strategies like Salaman Great and Striker means that a deck that takes 2 turns to OTK is likely to be swamped just through sheer number of cards. And 3, It's kinda hard. I mean, one of the benefits of old Dino was you could bash your head onto the board for 30 minutes and still go X1. This one requires you think critically about combo lines and maximize your in-game efficiency. And Grug no have critical thinking skills. All in all, it's an exceptional deck that's definitely experienced a huge boost in playability, but I think it'll be relegated to a tier alongside Trickstar at best. So that's that. A special thanks to all of my patrons, but specifically Colin Whalen, Michael Saumur, Ace Enigma, Adrian Bra, and Distrim. If you want to see me play the decks I make on this show on stream, I'm on twitch.tv/mbtygo every Monday from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you have an idea for a certain deck or archetype you want me to take a look at on a future episode of this show, let me know in the comments section below and I'll do my best. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.